Hello, this is Mark from Sound Matters and welcome back to the channel. I'm reviewing the JDS Labs Atom Phono today. It's a new phono preamp to the market, but it's not just a phono preamp. It also doubles up as a tone control. This is the company's first major push into vinyl gear, so it's going to be interesting to see how it measures up. Let's get straight into the review. According to JDS Labs, the Atom Phono is a strong RIAA phono preamp and clean tone control all in one. There are two toggles on the front panel that allow you to enable or bypass both functions, meaning that you can run this discrete desktop-friendly box as a phono preamp, an EQ, both at the same time, or neither. So essentially the Atom Phono just incorporates a two-band equalizer. When the toggle switch is down, the tone controls at the front are enabled, allowing you to add a little extra bass or a little bit more sizzle and sparkle in the high frequencies if you so wish. According to JDS Labs, the circuit, the EQ, is a adaptation of a Braxton circuit which can also be completely bypassed. They also claim that the EQ has no bearing on the sound quality or sound profile of the phono stage at the same time. This phono preamp is switchable between 30 and 40 dBs of gain, making it suitable for moving magnet phono cartridges, and you can toggle between the two different gain settings using a simple switch or button rather on the front panel. JDS Labs also state that the Atom Phono achieves remarkably low noise for a phono preamp, even at high gain settings. Now, I'm not one to completely geek out over spec sheets. They can be misleading and people like to play games with marketing, but I can say that the Atom Phono has a pretty impressive spec for signal to noise ratio at 89 dB. So on paper, that sounds pretty good. I'm pretty sure that will be an A-weighted measurement, so factoring in for human hearing. I don't know the rest of the test conditions, of course, but let's just take that on face value. But what I thought I would do is do a little experiment using a reference tone on my turntable. So I put this up against the Mani 2, which is priced the same at $150. So I did a reference tone first to account for the difference in dB. So the standard dB for the Mani 2 is 42. The high setting on the Atom Phono is 40. So using the test tone, I could normalize the signals and factor that in. And I have to say that the Atom Phono was quieter than the Mani 2. It had less self noise overall. So pretty impressive performer. I'd say at this price point, they're doing really well. I couldn't see any RIAA accuracy specification on the website, so I also look forward to hearing how this sounds compared to the many other phono stages I've reviewed at this kind of price level. Regardless, specs can be misleading. As I say, I like to use my ears. Another feature worth noting is that the Atom Phono does have a subsonic filter, which I think is a pretty, essential feature in any good quality phono stage, in my humble opinion. This will help protect your gear from any low frequency rumble, particularly woofers on your speakers, and also improve the audio clarity in the face of any subsonic issues. I have to say the build quality of the Atom Phono feels great overall, and it looks really sharp. The controls feel durable compared to many of the rivals at this price point. The toggle switches have a durable feel to them, and the tone controls, the pots, feel really silky and smooth. I also like the addition of a power toggle on the back, which is really handy for power saving. For the listening tests, I span the Meters Rejuvenation, Stevie Wonder's Talking Book, and the Beatles' Abbey Road. The Atom Phono has a lively, dynamic sound. It has a great sense of timing, particularly in the low end, where I found that some of its similarly priced rivals are underperforming. The Atom Phono doesn't over or underplay any particular area of the frequency spectrum, and to me sounds remarkably accurate for a phono stage priced at just $150. Having reviewed a number of phono preamps on the market now, one of the things I really like to do is dig out any of the similarly priced rivals that I own and capture some sample recordings of each one. For this part of the listening test, I sampled clips of the Mani 2, which is priced at the same price as the Atom Phono, of course. Then you've got the RIAA Phono Mini at $199 and the iFi Zen Phono, which will set you back a little bit more at just over $300. Unsurprisingly, all three phono stages outperformed the built-in version, which, while sounding perfectly adequate, can sound quite flat and two-dimensional compared to most external phono preamps. What really surprised me was just how similar the Atom Phono sounded to the iFi Zen. I regard the iFi Zen to sound very accurate and remarkably quiet at this price point, and so this is an interesting benchmark. It's worth remembering though that the Atom Phono is moving magnet only, and the iFi Zen can handle moving magnet and moving coil cartridges. The Mani 2 sounded a little unwieldy and over-energetic in the low end for my liking, losing that tight focused sound that I'd enjoyed with the Atom Phono. The Mani 2 is similarly priced of course and will handle moving coil cartridges. As for the RIAA Phono Mini, I found this to be somewhere in the middle. It doesn't suffer from the over-excitable bass like the Mani 2, but it also doesn't have quite the panache of the Atom Phono. For such an affordable phono stage, I was suitably impressed. But what about the addition of these tone controls? Well, one of the things I did notice straight away is that they're right in saying that when you enable the EQ using the toggle, if the EQ knobs are in the centre, if they're at 12 o'clock, it does have no bearing whatsoever on the sound of the Phono Preamp, so it's not colouring it at this stage. If you start to introduce treble or bass, of course, things change, but if you just have it enabled, it doesn't appear to my ears to affect the sound of the Phono Preamp whatsoever, so it means that the circuit isn't going to throw off that RIAA equalization curve. That's categorically, of course, a good thing. What these controls do, however, if you've got the appetite for it, is put you in the driving seat. If you want a little extra bass one day, why not? You can add it. Let's say you've got a pressing that sounds a little bit dull. Well, you can liven it up with just a tad more treble. You can seamlessly switch this EQ on and off using the toggle, and it doesn't produce any loud pops and clicks into your speakers, which could be damaging. And, you know, although it would have been nice to have seen a mid-range control added to this functionality, I think for most listeners this is probably control enough, and it happens to be integrated into this Phono Preamp at just $150. I actually tried these tone controls on a copy of the Moody Blues Days of Future Past that I own. It's an anniversary repressing that sounds like it was recorded under a pillow. So by lifting the treble quite significantly and dropping the bass just a bit, I managed to make it sound noticeably better. Is this a useful thing to have? Well, I would say so. So as usual guys, we've got to come up with some kind of conclusion. What do I think of the Atom Phono overall? Well, JDS Labs have been in the headphone amp and DAC space now for over a decade, and I think, considering this is their first sort of venture into the vinyl gear space, I think for $150 they've really smashed it out of the park. Now granted, it doesn't offer the array of controls and the support for moving coil cartridges that you see from some of the similarly priced competitors, but it more than makes up for it with the less is more approach. Without any bias, I can categorically say that I prefer the sound of this phono stage over the popular Mani 2. That might just be a preference, but I prefer the tighter, more focused bass performance on offer here. So if you only ever plan on owning moving magnet phono cartridges and you've got a relatively modest budget, then I reckon you should definitely check out the Atom Phono. It has a great sound, the tone controls are a nice bonus, it's sturdily built, and it's also one of the better looking phono pre's at this price point too. Well done, JDS Labs. So that's it from me, but before you leave, do check out the discount codes in the description of this video. They're always there so you can get money off vinyl gear at no extra cost to you. I get a very small commission and I appreciate your support. There's also my Patreon page for exclusive content each and every month. We do audio shootouts on a regular basis over there too. There's also, of course, the link to this actual product we've been talking about today as well for your convenience. And just the last thing to say is if you're new to this channel, please do consider subscribing. I'd love to have you on board my vinyl journey with you guys, but until that next video, keep spinning the music, keep playing the records, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.